So we're here for a conversation about the video contemplation or new media contemplation titled Why Things Are the Way They Are. And I want to first, Mona, ask you, because this idea originated with you, what was the inspiration? What was the sense that compelled this in you in the first place?
The inspiration came from a discussion that I was having with a friend, and the focus started to make us both look at the world around us in a much bigger sense. And I began to realize that a lot of the stress and strain that I heard from people in the world was really related to looking at the chain of events happening in very small local pockets and not having the sense or understanding that it's part of a very large picture. So that limited understanding and it limited tolerability and limited kind of like being able to understand and find a place inside of and be able to have a place to grow inside of all that's going on. So I wanted to put a message together that would let people find a place to have a little corner where they could think about their own life and their own growth in a way that had the context of a much larger picture. And not the small local events, but a large picture of what's going on with humanity, with the creation, with the planet. So that's
Yeah. So, and what was the intuition or the hope that this will facilitate, that somebody, by watching and experiencing and going along with the images and the music and the script, that they will feel what or sense what or be awakened to what? What was the sense of that?
well, I think when you get a space to actually examine how you are and the kind of things you want to ask your own life, when you can have that space and it's not being influenced by the news or influenced by the exigencies of life, it lets you come to a different settlement and peace in yourself where there's been room to actually map your own life, map your own goals, map your own values for the creation you're inside of. And it gives people a different sense of, I think settlement, but possibly hope, that there's actually there is something other than madness out there, and you can have a quiet place in yourself to find your own place inside of it.
So settlement, hope, perhaps a degree of reverence about the bigger system we are part of,
Yeah.
and inside it a sense of connection to that greater system, and inside that perhaps a sense of meaning that can be nourished through that experience. So Patrick, let me come to you and ask you, when you joined this effort and worked with Mona on the script, and what was the inspiration that you found in this project, and what did it bring up in you?
I was very inspired and excited by the fact that this was going to be a contemplation, not just a presentation. Because there's such a difference. With a presentation, you're given facts and you're said, you're told sort of, this is the way it is, and you look at facts and you think about it. But a contemplation has a way of, it helps you think about things in a very different way. It's like it engages different parts of your faculties, different parts of your brain. And so when you're looking at a contemplation, you're not just given facts, you're asked questions. And it causes you to think about things in a very different way. And it's not so much coming to the right answer, it's really asking the questions. And so it's a way that each person is invited to kind of come into this and ask questions in a way that's important for them. And so every person's going to engage with this differently, especially when you see the combination of you have script and beautiful graphics and art, and then this amazing music that comes in. It's a package that really draws you in. And I was finding myself looking at it inspired because it feels like it engages something deeper than just your brain. You feel something really is getting engaged with a really very deep, profound contemplation about the way things actually work, or one of the ways of looking at things a new way about how things might work in a very big way. So that was the most inspiring, I think, is just coming at it in a way that I think will really draw people in and give people the space to ask their own questions afterwards and come up with their own answers, because every life is going to be different. And then it also, I realized going into it that the way this develops, it asks very big questions. It comes into very big territories like, oh, the universe is expanding. But then it's a scientific fact, and you might say, well, okay, like, so what? But the way this develops is you realize that each one of us, each person is a part of the universe. So what's happening in a really big sense, it's happening on the planet, and it's happening inside of each one of us. And it for me, kind of makes me sort of realize this perception that things are not just changing out there, they're changing inside of me. And there's an amazing opportunity as we contemplate how the universe might be evolving. It's like, well, how am I evolving? How is each one of us evolving? And what opportunities are there for our own growth and expansion? And so all of that sort of is part of a contemplation. And for me, all of that was coming to the surface, and it just was a really wonderful way, a wonderful experience of being able to contemplate big things in a way that brought me into it in a very different way.
Yes, yes, beautiful. So with this contemplative sense that as the universe evolves, we have the right to contemplate how might we be evolving, each one of us personally, inside the evolution of the universe. What was it, or what is it that you're hoping people will be able to access by way of feeling, by way of perception, by way of sentiment?
Right. By way of feeling, I hope that when people see this, we all can realize that we are part of a much bigger whole. And that as we talk about evolution and growth in many different ways, it's not just out there, it's something inside of each one of us. And we can, if we want to, we can play however big of a role we want to play, because it's going to be different for every person. And so I hope that people come away with the feeling and the sentiment that it opens up a whole new vista or perception about what is happening. Now, each person can be a part of that, and we can make our own decisions that will bring us into it and make us part of something really big happening.
That's great. So Paul, let me come to you, because you then needed to do two things. You needed to compose and play the music into this, and then put it technologically together. I'm first asking about what inspired you in this, and how did you go about complementing this contemplation and script with this beautiful music?
Yeah, let me start with addressing the music part of the question. It's funny in a way. I think the video, the questions it asks, the way it asks, and because there's timings built into the PowerPoint deck, the pacing of that, in one regard, didn't need any music. So yes, from the get-go in my conversations with Mona, and then I knew the subsequent dialogue she was having with Patrick and Jane, there was a decision made in me that whatever musically was going to accompany it didn't want to detract or distract or in any ways interfere with the engagement, the participant, the active participant would have in their experience of this. Having made that decision or come to that view of the approach I believe would best serve the message within this contemplation, I tried many different things, styles, instruments, you name it. They all got relegated to the, as I say, I'm not so much a composer. I'm a composer in small part, and I'm a composter in large parts. So most of what got developed got composted. And then it was how to get the flow right, or how to at least begin to get a sense of the flow. So in early 20th century Americas, when movies were still silent, but they were a phenomenon. It wasn't just in the US, it was worldwide, and they were a phenomenon. But people wanted music with them. And so oftentimes what you would get, you obviously couldn't afford an orchestra, but so they would get an organist. And the organist would sit under the screen, or sometimes actually behind the screen, and watch the movie with the people watching, experiencing the film. And they would play live. So what you are hearing there with the strings, the synthesized strings, is me playing live with what Mona and Patrick and Jane handed off to me. And then coming in and adding just some minor sound effects to try and augment the dialogue. I think that's the most important thing, and I hope I accomplished it. The feedback I got back from Mona was she seemed to believe it hit the mark. So if she feels and believes that to be the case, then I'm content.
Yeah, beautiful.
Can I say one thing here? Is that
Please.
I think absolutely you accomplished that. And what in watching it a couple more times, what I realized about how the art of it all came together was that you had the things that interests your brain. You had the things to consider, you had the things to look at, you had the messages and the questions. So at one level, you had that conscious engagement going on. But what the music did is it let your emotions come and float right along with it. So by doing the music the way you did, it allowed like two parts of you to come and be together in the contemplation, so that you could feel your sentiments the same time you were considering questions and wondering about things. So I think it went together just beautifully, and what you tried to do was stunning in the end. I'm so happy with it.
Yeah. Well, so my build comments to all that you're sharing is that the core inspiration for portals of perception as an endeavor is how can we create and curate the video media with content and experience that will somehow provide people access in themselves to new ideas, to new experiences, to new connections, to new perceptions. And right from the get-go, we had this vision that if we can, not only will we have talking heads, although that's a big part of what we have, and not only will we have a written copy, although that's an important part, and not only will we have elements of art and pieces of music, but that somehow there will be additional and new emergent attempts, such as this one, where somebody, if they're able to catch the right moment for themselves, they can sit with this for the 10 and a half or 11 minutes that it is. And a bit like sometime a person will watch a beautiful sunset, but then they are just compelled by the majestic beauty of the sunset. Here, there is the combination and the compounding effect of the music and the script and the ideas and the content and the contemplative platforming or scaffolding that is offered with those inquiries, such that a person may be able to access something new for themselves. Perhaps a moment in their day where they just can wonder in a new way, who am I? What am I a part of? And what might be a way for me to think about my life and think about this time in a fresh new way. If we're able to open the space and allow for that, then this exceeded even what we can hope to create. There is nothing more gratifying and fulfilling in that sense in having created a space that is providing access for people in themselves, to a realization or a recognition or a sentiment and a perception about their life in a new way. And perhaps it will even lead to a conversation with each other about this idea of, well, what does it mean that the universe is evolving? And what does it mean earlier in the contemplation where it suggests that actually the universe is very intelligent about the way it solves its own conundrum, where the implicit message is that we are actually living inside an intelligent universe. And oh, by the way, that means that we ourselves, as part of the universe, are not only intelligent in the conscious part of our intelligence, but we ourselves are perhaps an extraordinary example and manifestation of the multi-layered intelligence of the universe, in how this entire human system and its capacity to sense and register and perceive and discover through dialogue how so extraordinary it is. And how, in that sense, if you extend that contemplation, you can begin to wonder about this idea that could it be that we are nerve ends in neural ends in the greater mind or the greater consciousness of the universe, and as part of the contemplation, not stating that it is, but allowing ourselves to go with the contemplation that this is a conscious, intelligent universe, whereby the individuated consciousness that we each get to access and experience is part of how actually the universe is able to access and discover its own consciousness. So that there is all that to expand to, all of which is potentiated and invited by this beautiful contemplation. That's what it caused in me, and I thought I'd offer it as an appreciation to what you created here. Beautiful. So thank you very much.